Cover your hearts and get ready to go on another adventure with Indiana Jones. Let's do it. Hey, welcome back to my channel. Today I want to review Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. This movie was released in 1984. It was produced on a budget of $28 million, and upon release it made $179 in the US and $333 worldwide. Once again, Steven Spielberg was back to direct with a story by George Lucas. Obviously, Harrison Ford was back to play Indiana Jones. Kate Capshaw is in the movie as Willie Scott. And I'm sorry, I look at my notes. Ke Huy Quan plays Short Round. You'll remember him from Goonies. He played Data in the Goonies. Also, a couple of trivia things quick before we get into it. George Lucas was going through a divorce when he wrote the script for this movie, and that's why he says contributed to why the movie is so dark compared to the other Indiana Jones films. Also, the scene where Kate Capshaw is going through the insects, that's actually really her with the insects all over. And the other thing is a nightclub in the beginning, which we're going to talk about in a second, is named in the movie Club Obi-Wan, obviously a reference to Star Wars. And when the movie starts, we get this big musical number at this nightclub. And we're introduced to Willie Scott. She's the main singer. And then enter Indiana Jones into this club. He comes down into this club and he meets with some Chinese businessmen. We're in Shanghai. And these businessmen, we come to find out, have Lao Chi is the main businessman, and he has hired Indy to secure an artifact for him. But we find out the night before he tried to screw him without paying. He sent one of his goons to steal it out of Indy's room so they didn't have to pay. But Indy foiled it, and here we are. And Indy says, I have it, I want to see my money. And the guys try to screw him again, but Indy already thought of that, already thwarted that screwing, and they pay him begrudgingly, and Indy hands over the artifact that they want. And they send over a drink as well. And once everybody's happy, Indy takes a drink of this beverage they give him, and they start Lao starts to laugh. And that's because they poison his drink. And this is where we get our first, Lao has a antidote, and this starts our first gun battle and fist fight in the nightclub, and it's really well done, well shot. Spielberg's a master at that. And there's a scramble for the antidote, and Willie Scott picks up the antidote, and Indiana Jones and her end up jumping out this window, down some stories high up in this building, through some awnings, and into the car waiting for him at the bottom, and it's being driven by Short Round, who's only a kid. And we have a car chase through the streets of Shanghai, and we get to the airfield. Indy takes the antidote, and there's a gentleman at the airport that Indy had hired to procure them a plane to get out of there. And that gentleman's played by none other than Dan Aykroyd. You really can't see his face, but you can tell by his voice. And as they're getting in the plane, Indy's like, I'll see you in hell, Lao. And he closes the door, and on the plane says Lao Chi. And Lao starts laughing. He goes, yeah, Dr. Jones, I'll see you next time. And they get in the plane, and they start flying. And over India, India and Willie Scott and Short Round are sleeping. And the pilots jump out. And by the time they awaken, they realize they're in trouble, and they end up jumping out of a plane into a inflatable rubber raft, and they float down to land, and they go down the side of a mountain on snow, and then they go off a cliff and down into a river, and they end up by this small village in India. And like this village leader finds them and takes them back to the village and explains to them what's been going on, that their stone has been taken, Shankara stone, and their children have been stolen from them. And they start telling them about this ancient palace that's been reopened, and that's the cause of all the problems. And they ask Indy to go to try to figure out what's going on, and he agrees. And Willie Scott, Short Round, and Indy start heading towards the palace. And when they get there, they find out it really is open. There's new leadership, and also while they're there, the British are there doing inspection, because this is when the British were still, the British still controlled India. And there's a British captain there just doing an inspection, make sure everything's all right. And there's a really cold, disgusting dinner scene where you have guys eating cockroaches and snakes and stuff, and chilled monkey brains for dessert. And it's funny because just reactions from Willie and Short Round about what's going on around them. And Willie kind of presses the leadership about things he's heard about. The thuggy cult might be back, people are stealing children and the stones, and the guy kind of laughs it off. And that night, Indy is visited by one of the guys that are they try to kill him, and Indy kills him instead, and then they find a secret passage, and they go down into these tunnels, and they get trapped in a room. Him and Short Round get trapped in this room, and this is where the insect scene happens, where Willie Scott has to go through these insects, pull a lever, and release them from this room. And this is where this is where the movie gets intense for a couple minutes. This is where we see our first human sacrifice. And I remember when I saw this when I was a kid, and it is intense, and it looks real. The effects are really well done. Or they show Molaron putting his hand in this guy's chest and ripping his heart out, and the heart's still beating in his hand, and the guy's still alive, while they lower him down into a pit of lava. And as he burns alive, the heart burns in Molaron's hand. It looks great. I mean, it's a great effect. But I know, doing some research, that they were given an R rating at first. The MPA was threatening to give them an R rating, and Spielberg appealed it, and they gave him a PG rating, which is kind of crazy to think about, because it does look real, and it's pretty graphic considering. I mean, there's not blood everywhere, but it's a pretty intense scene. This is before there was a PG-13 rating, which Spielberg had a hand in creating along with the MPAA. And anyway, after that, Indiana Jones goes down there after everybody disperses and grabs the stones, but unfortunately, Molaron was on to him, and they catch him, Short Round, and Willie. And Short Round's taken with the rest of the kids to start mining as a slave. And Indiana Jones has turned bad. They give him some kind of potion. They force him to drink it, and he turns bad. And they're going to sacrifice Willie. And thank God Short Round escapes, he gets Indiana Jones to be good again by putting a flame up to his stomach. And they release Willie, and then this is where we get our minecart chase through the mines, which is really cool. I'm skipping over some stuff, or we'll be here forever. And then the rope bridge scene, which is awesome, very suspenseful. And then the British come and help fight off the rest of the thuggy cult, and Indy returns the stone to the villagers and their children. And that's the end of the movie, folks. And this is, again, like I said, this is a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. This takes place 1 year before Raiders. And it's a really well done movie. I know some people don't like this one out of the original three. I do like this one. I don't think it's better than Raiders. And I even like The Last Crusade a little bit better. And that's mostly because of Sean Connery and Harrison Ford together. They're awesome together in that film. But I would give this film a 9 out of 10. It's really well done. The action set pieces are fantastic. The acting's great. Now, Kate Capshaw's great as Willie Scott. Unfortunately, her character isn't given much to do other than be whiny for half the film. Later on, she gets a backbone a little bit, and she's helpful. But overall, she kind of just plays a damsel in distress. That's probably my one little nitpick at it. But the cult angle I'm fine with. That works. Yes, it's a little darker than the other two Indiana Jones films, but the original trilogy, I know I'm kind of ignoring the Kingdom and the Crystal Skull, but I really like it. Again, 9 out of 10 for me for Temple of Doom. What are your thoughts on Temple of Doom? Where does it rank in the original trilogy for you? Do you like this film? Do you not like this film? Where does it go with the other two films? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. If you like this video, hit a thumbs up. I would greatly appreciate it. Hit the subscribe button. I greatly appreciate that as well. And I hope you all take care of yourselves, stay safe, and I will be back soon with another review. Thanks. Bye.